When the international doctor embarks on their road to UK, the thing that tends to stop them up is, well, what exam should I take to get GMC registration? Should it be PLAB or MRCP or any of the other postgraduate exams under the Royal College? What we're going to discuss today are the differences between these types of exams and how you can make the best decision about what's right for you. If this is the first time you're checking out our channel, welcome. Basically what we do is we run a website that's totally free known as roadtok.com, and it will explain the ins and outs about everything related to the United Kingdom and what it takes for you to work as a doctor in the NHS. So if you've not already, please stalk us on all of our social media. Find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. Hi everyone, my name is Ibreez and I currently work as a doctor in the NHS, and let's talk about it. So PLAB, what is PLAB? PLAB is not a postgraduate exam, it's a licensing exam. Basically you will take PLAB and you will get GMC registration. That's the aim of PLAB. You take it, you get your registration, and you start working in the NHS. PLAB, yeah, you can start working in a training program if you meet the other criteria. Most of the time, what people get confused about is, if I take PLAB, does that mean I can't enter medical training? I can't enter surgical training? I can't do this, I can't do that. Look, the barring and criteria for training is not always just based on the exam, especially if you're starting at a core level or at the very beginning of a run-through training. So don't think that PLAB is out of the question if you want to join in training at some point in your career. Now, for MRCP or any of the other postgraduate exams like MRCS, MRCPCH, etc., these are postgraduate qualifications. And what that means is you've effectively proven to them in terms of the curriculum that's set out in these exams that you've understood that particular subject, be it medicine, surgery, peds, whatever. Again, though, don't think just because you've completed all parts of MRCP or MRCS or whatever that you are now eligible to be a consultant, that you can skip the training or anything like that. No, that's not how it works in the United Kingdom. You have to prove at some point, either you yourself will go through a training program here in the UK, or you have to prove basically that whatever you've learned up until that point is equivalent to the training that they would receive in the UK. So don't think that if I take MRCP, oh, that's great, I don't have to worry about doing any sort of training. I'll take this exam, get my registration, come to the UK, and now I'm a consultant in the NHS. That's not how it works. That's not how it works for any of the postgraduate exams. So don't get distracted by the prospect of maybe one exam will make me more important than the other exam. Maybe one of these exams will give me a better GMC registration. At the end of the day, both PLAB and any of the postgraduate exams will give you GMC registration, and that's all you need to work as a doctor. Now, another source of confusion is, okay, Ibreez, you said I'll take PLAB, but later on when I want to join training, don't I still have to take those postgraduate exams? Yes, you do. At some point in whatever your training program is, you will be required to complete that postgraduate exam specific to the specialty that you are training in. So if you've already done it ahead of time, you don't have to take it again. If you've done some parts of it, you don't have to take it again so long as the exam is valid. But if you're thinking, all right, I'm fairly new on my journey, I've just done internship or only have 1 or 2 years of experience, let me take PLAB, let's get into the system, and then I can decide what I want to do, that's fine. Then you can join, let's say, surgical training and complete MRCS, and that's totally fine. You can progress that way. Or you can say, actually, I kind of want to take MRCS back home and then come and work in the UK. That is fine as well. Remember, it's exactly the same in terms of the type of registration you get, and you could effectively even be starting at the same place. The exam has no bearing on your experience and the competencies that you bring. Now, talking about the parts for these exams, I don't want to talk about every single exam at length because that'll just clutter up this video and it may not be relevant to you. So what I would suggest you do is, if you have any questions about any of the postgraduate exams, all of the Royal Colleges have, in-depth explanations and, the types of exams, how many exams you'd have to take and what kind of exams they would be. So I would suggest you go ahead and check that out. But really quick, if you just want a quick overview, for PLAB, you would need to have your English proficiency exam done first, either IELTS or OET, and then you can take PLAB 1 or PLAB 2. For the postgraduate exams, you don't need to prove your English beforehand. The only time you will need to prove your proficiency of English, again, either IELTS or OET, is when you go apply for GMC registration. So You have your, exams done, you've got your MRCS done, you want to apply for GMC registration, you need to have your English proof at that time. A lot of times when people feel that they really struggle with passing IELTS or OET and that's why they can't take PLAB, they sometimes think to themselves, fine, I'll take a postgraduate exam, work on my English, and then take those English exams and get registration, which is totally okay. But remember, you can't take PLAB without an English exam, but you're able to do your postgraduate exams without having an English exam because that English exam is only needed for your GMC registration. In terms of cost, PLAB will be the least expensive. And when you think about all the postgraduate exams, especially the ones that have multiple parts, overall, they will cost more. So again, if you're someone who's just starting out and you're thinking, well, it's a pretty expensive exam if I do a postgraduate exam, or it's going to take me a while to actually accrue all that money, maybe I just do PLAB for now. You could do that. Or if you're thinking to yourself, no, you know what, that's fine. I will, earn some money, get some experience, and then clear all of my postgraduate exams. That's fine as well. It doesn't necessarily also mean that if you're somebody with a lot of experience who hasn't taken a postgraduate qualification that you can't just take PLAB. There isn't any sort of age limit or barrier saying you can't take PLAB at a certain point in your career. It just might be a little bit more practical if you are somebody who has a good amount of experience to take a postgraduate exam just because you have the knowledge to go ahead and do that exam in one go. Now you've taken PLAB. Where do you stand once you're done with PLAB? So, like I said, it doesn't matter at what point in your career you take PLAB. If you are someone who has a little bit of experience, you might think to yourself, okay, I'm feeling confident, I'm not feeling that confident, maybe I'll apply for an FY2 standalone, maybe I'll apply for a non-training trust grade level job at maybe an FY2 or CT1 equivalent. Ideal, you can do that. In terms of those of you who will opt for the postgraduate exams, if you're thinking to yourself, well, okay, I don't have that much experience, but I went ahead and cleared a postgraduate exam. Is it really ideal for me to come and work in the NHS at a registrar level just because I've taken this exam, but I actually don't have the experience to back it up? Probably not. Remember, you have a lot of responsibility as you progress in your career. By the time you become a consultant, you want to be someone who's extremely confident and knows exactly what's happening, and a registrar is just pretty much the middle rung before you become a consultant. So don't take that type of a role lightly. Saying that, if you're someone that you feel like, actually, I have a pretty good amount of experience, and yeah, I've done this postgraduate exam, why shouldn't I apply for a registrar post? By all means. But please remember, whenever you're applying for jobs, go through the person specifications as well as the job description, what's expected of you. You might be sitting there and saying, well, Ibreez, look, I've looked at, the job description, the person specifications, and it pretty much says that MRCS is essential, and I have MRCS, and this is a registrar post, so I can apply to be a reg, and that's totally fine. Yeah, but what are they asking you to do? When you actually think about it, what are your competencies, and what are the competencies that they're expecting a surgical registrar to have in the NHS? That isn't belittling your training or your experience, but you have to remember the training experience that you have outside of the United Kingdom is just that. It's outside of the NHS, and it's a different healthcare system. So remember, if you're thinking you want to come and approach and apply for, let's say, even directly into training, you have to prove your competencies, you have to show stuff in your portfolio, and you have to be able to prove to them that you are at the level and competent enough to take this type of a post without prior NHS experience. Otherwise, if you're thinking, no, maybe I'll build up to it, take a CT1 or ST1 level post for a short period of time, express your interest in the interview that, yeah, look, I've got this amount of experience, but I need to get an idea of what y'all are doing here before I really take up all of that, responsibility, and ask if you can shadow registrars, ask if you can see what the general day-to-day is for a reg, and maybe in 6-7 months' time, you will then transition into a registrar post. Personally, I think that's the safest option, not only for you, but just for everyone around you. You won't stress yourself out wondering, well, now, yeah, fine, I understand, the clinical stuff, but what about all the other things that they're asking and are expecting of me? You don't want to be put in a bind just because you've taken too big of a step. It's all there. Nothing will run away from you. Just take things in stride. All right, so what's the bottom line, Ibreez? What should I do? Should I think about PLAB? Should I think about a postgraduate exam? First of all, you need to ask yourself, all right, since you've graduated or since you've done your internship, how much clinical experience do you have? Now, I'm not asking you how many years it's been. Sometimes people think, well, it's been 5 years since I've graduated. I should definitely take a postgraduate exam.
Yeah, but have you been working for those 5 years? How well are you based at your clinical knowledge? Do you actually know what's happening in medicine, or are you kind of out of touch? If you're someone who's relatively out of touch, PLAB would be the ideal option simply because it is a pretty much a basics kind of exam, back to basics. All right, well, this is the medicine that you know, this is the stuff we remember in med school, and this is what you have to say and do. In contrast to that, the postgraduate exams tend to be a little bit more in depth. That's not to say you couldn't teach yourself all of it, that you definitely need to have some amount of clinical experience before you take it, but it would probably be much easier for you and you wouldn't have to stress as much when you're preparing if you already have residual or background knowledge from your day-to-day clinical experience. So in that sense, if you're wondering which one's better for you, ask yourself first, how much clinical experience do you already have? The next thing you're going to ask me is then, fine, which one's easier? And I think it's pretty obvious at this point, guys, that PLAB will definitely be easier because it is a simplistic approach and a licensing type exam versus the postgraduate qualification of the postgraduate exams. That doesn't mean, oh, well, now if I do a postgraduate exam, that makes me awesomer than the person who's taken PLAB. No, because like I said, at some point, everyone will have to take a postgraduate exam if they're intending to progress with training. So really the question should be asked of you, all right, if I'm wanting to do this, I don't have a lot of experience, I guess PLAB will be best for me because it's not too difficult and I don't have a lot of experience. There's your answer. If actually you're like, I've got a fair amount of experience and yeah, it's gonna be a little difficult, but that's fine. I've got a good amount of knowledge. I've studied for other exams in my country and I think that information that I've learned there would be useful for this exam as well. There you go. Postgraduate exam. Remember as well, PLAB is less expensive than any of the postgraduate exams. No matter which postgraduate exam you choose, PLAB is going to be considerably less expensive. So think about that when you're making your decision too, because what if you're thinking to yourself, all right, fine, I'll take a postgraduate exam, and then you balk at the amount of money it actually will take for you to complete all of those exams, and you're thinking to yourself, all right, fine, then I have to really pace myself because I have other financial commitments and responsibilities that I need to ensure as well. But in terms of like PLAB, you could probably think about how you would incrementally increase your money until you have enough to take the PLAB exam versus with the postgraduate exams, you would probably have to pace yourself. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, I know I just want to rehash this again, guys. So, alright, I've completed a postgraduate exam. That means I can directly join training now, right? No, of course not. Because why? Because you haven't proved your competencies. You haven't to really look at what the person's specifications and the criteria are for that particular training program. And yeah, you might get points for certain training programs if you've done a postgraduate exam, but that doesn't mean you can just join it and be like, oh, hey guys, I've done this exam, now please give me a training post. No. You will either have to think about CREST as a competency form, or depending on the type of training, you might have to look at alternative core competency forms, which we've talked about in different videos that I've linked below. So what you have to remember is these exams are not a golden ticket in terms of your entering training. They will not allow you to skip ahead of anything, and they will not make you a consultant overnight. They're just one of the ways for you to get GMC registration. And yes, additionally, they are a postgraduate qualification at some point in your training and career. If you were pursuing that specialty or, that department, you would need to take that type of a postgraduate exam. So it's good to get it out of the way. But just because you've done it ahead of time doesn't mean you get to skip the line. The last little thing that you guys need to remember is, are you eligible to take these postgraduate exams? MRCS is one of the exams that you can take as an intern. MRCP Part 1 you can't even think about until you've completed your internship, or basically what they've stated is that you need to have a year of practice after you graduate. And there are some of the other postgraduate exams, for instance MRCOG, which you can't complete unless you're actually in a structured training program, be that in your country or in the United Kingdom. So remember, when you're thinking about, oh, maybe I want to take this postgraduate exam, or maybe I want to take that postgraduate exam, see if you're first eligible to even take it. If you're not eligible and you really want to get to the UK sooner rather than later, PLAB may make more sense for you. If you think, okay, I can take PLAB, but I'll be able to take at least part 1 of the exam because I will at least be eligible for one part of it, that's fine if you've already decided that's the way you want to go. Do not, please, do not just take a postgraduate exam because you're telling yourself, fine, I'll get registration, it's going to be a shinier registration, it's going to be better than everyone else, and I can get whatever job I want. But actually, I don't want to do medicine, but I just took MRCP for kicks. Don't do that. Don't even take part 1 unless you're like, really thinking that you're going to do medicine. So if you're thinking to yourself, what's an easy boost to my portfolio? I'll just go take part 1 of MRCP, even though I want to be a surgeon. It's not helping you at all. So do not think that a postgraduate exam is necessarily that CV booster you need unless you've already told yourself, yeah, actually, I do want to become an emergency medicine consultant. I do want to become a psychiatrist. I do want to do peds. Then you can think about taking one of those postgraduate exams or considering those exams as a whole. Do not, for the sake of it or for the fun of it, just go out and take a postgraduate exam unless you're fully committed to it. Because like I said before, guys, not only are they difficult exams, they are expensive exams. And if you're not committed to this, why spend your money, your effort, and your time in that direction when you can instead direct it towards something that you actually care about? To sum it up, guys, the long and the short of it, do what's right for you. If somebody else tells you, doesn't matter what anyone says, go do MRCP, but secretly you're like, actually, but I want to be a psychiatrist, it wouldn't make sense for you to do MRCP. If you're thinking to yourself, but I'm already like 40 years old, I've got this much experience, I don't know if PLAB's really right for me, even though I don't have any sort of basis of my clinical knowledge. It's okay, take PLAB. Don't think that there are any restrictions or anything preventing you outside of whatever the eligibility criteria is for those exams. Really, if you are eligible, you can take it. It does not matter. Like I said before, it doesn't matter your age, your experience, or anything else when it comes to these exams, unless they're specifically stated in the criteria anywhere. And age, if I'm not mistaken, is not literally anywhere. It's usually just on eligibility in terms of your experience for some of the postgraduate exams and whether or not you're in a training program. So don't worry about it. If you ever get stuck, think to yourself, where do I want to be in 5 years? What do I see myself doing? And which exam can get me there? So hopefully that has at least cleared up some of your confusion and you feel a little bit better knowing that, all right, this is probably the way I want to go, or maybe that's something I'll consider. So until next time, guys, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and we will see you around. Thanks.